Please note that the views expressed on this program are those of the individuals who speak them, and not necessarily those of Portsmouth Community Radio, its Board of Trustees, members, volunteers, or underwriters. Good evening and welcome to Spirit Radio. I am your host, Willie Hassell. Along with my co-host, Lynne Nickerson, we will take you on a journey into the unknown, where the paranormal becomes the normal. A journey to a world cloaked in darkness, where reality becomes a thin veil. So sit back, relax, and join us as we venture into the shadows, the darkness, the unknown, and back. And good evening once again, and welcome to Spirit Radio, the paranormal experience. Ghosts, spirits, UFOs, hauntings, Bigfoot, nothing is off limits here. This is the show where the paranormal becomes the normal. I am your host, Willie Hassell, your gatekeeper to the dark side, your guide to the realm of the unknown, the unseen, the unthinkable. And backed by popular demand, yes, there she is. She is the lovely, she is the mystical, the mysterious Lynne Nickerson.
Good evening, Willie Hassell. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. We're a little formal tonight, aren't we?
Why not?
No, I don't know.
Show a sign of respect here, huh? Because I bet you usually don't get no respect.
No, I don't. I don't get no respect at all. I can't remember the last time I got respect.
I'll respect you.
I know when I did, I spelled it wrong.
So what do we have on our agenda for tonight, Willie?
I don't know, but at first I was just going to comment on what a beautiful day it was today.
It was kind of nice, breezy and sunny. Yeah, it's a whole lot better than yesterday.
It was a great day to get out in the sailboat and fly a kite, you know? That's what I think.
Yeah, the audience has already had their weather report.
Yeah, well,
so
you obviously don't care about my day's worth of sunshine and wind, so... Okay, we'll just take it from there then. Let's see, we don't have a guest tonight, do we?
No, we don't.
And so it's all up to us.
Well, we had planned on discussing some UFO issues.
UFO issues.
Yeah, we were calling it UFOs and Beyond.
UFOs and Beyond. So do you want to give us a little intro to...
An idea?
Yeah.
Well, what I was thinking is that we would present some information on UFO cases in support of the existence of UFOs. Most of us know that they're out there, and we're not here to convince you one way or the other, but would like to present some information that allows you to draw your own conclusions, or in the least, we'd like to present something that will spur you on to do something with your own research. Everybody has their own opinions, and we just ask that you keep an open mind and consider the existence of UFOs and what may lie beyond their visitations. So, Willie.
Yes, Lynn.
I have a question for you.
Yes, Lynne Nickerson.
Do you believe in UFOs?
Do I believe in UFOs? Well...
And can you substantiate that?
I don't know if I can substantiate anything.
Well, give it a try.
But, UFOs is a subject that I've always wondered about. 20 years ago, I would have said, you're crazy. 10 years ago, I would have said, I don't know.
And now you're intellectually curious. Is that what it is?
No.
You haven't grown?
No, just... I've just come to the conclusion that I have absolutely no doubt that there is life somewhere out among all that stars and stuff out there. Is that life actually here on this planet? The jury is still out on that one for me.
Well, there are humans here, Willie. I can testify to that.
Well,
are you talking extraterrestrial?
Well, yeah, that's
I see.
I know there's human life here.
I don't want to assume what you're saying.
Yeah, whether or not there's intelligent life here, that's that's another story entirely.
I think there's some.
Yeah. there's a few, huh?
Yeah. I've pointed things out to you in the sky.
You have,
some unusual.
I am actually learning how to spot them now, aren't I? Mm-hmm. I'm doing very good.
What I've noticed are these apparently stationary lights, and they seem to be almost white with a blinking sort of backlight that is generally red. Sometimes it's blue. And it sits there and it flickers, and then sometimes it intensifies, and it sits there for hours, and then it disappears. And they're peppered in different places in the sky, and it almost seems to me like they're monitoring what's going on.
And yeah, I have actually, since you've started pointing these out to me, I have actually been able, not some of the ones that you point out I can't really see, but there are other ones that
are more clear.
That I can see, yes, it is. I don't know if you call it flickering or flashing.
Yeah, it's like it twinkles more intensely.
Differently than a normal star twinkle.
And there are colors to them.
Yes, I have seen reddish colors.
Well,
so, do I believe in them? I'm working on it. I'm coming around. I mean, like I say, there's got to be life there somewhere.
Well, did you finish?
I don't know. It depends if you were going to say something or not.
Well, I was just going to add to that for me, this isn't a new revelation, that I started experiencing things since I was a child. I remember 2 episodes when I was 10 years old. So that takes us back to 1961. Not that anybody's doing the math out there.
No.
But I have 2 distinct experiences. One was I woke up in the middle of the night, frozen, and hanging in my doorway was a green phosphorescent Michelin man that was suspended in my doorway. He was about 3 feet high. And I couldn't move, and it scared me to death. And then I just fell back asleep. And then that was the summer of 61. And during that summer again, I got up in the middle of the night, and I walked to the window, the only low window in the bedroom, and it was maybe 1.5 feet off the floor. So I got on my knees and put my elbows on the windowsill, looked out, and I had a long look at this squadron of red UFOs. But the odd thing is I don't remember getting back into bed. So
well, I'm assuming you must have.
Yeah.
At some point, And you said you were 10 years old at the time?
That was in 1961, the summer of 1961, and that following September is when Betty and Barney Hill had their experience, which I think is very coincidental. And then following that, in 1965, of course, most of us here on the East Coast lived through the incident at Exeter experience, and I knew a lot of my classmates had experiences during that time.
I know we discussed this not too long ago, and I incident in Exeter, and I believe I came up with I was in Florida at the time.
Oh, yeah, so you don't know anything about it, do you?
No.
Unless you read John Fuller's book.
Anyway.
Oh, no, you didn't, evidently.
No, I guess not.
And coincidentally, again, there was an incident at Pease in September of 1965, and John G. Fuller wrote the book Incident at Exeter, and he interviewed some people from Pease. And there was a newsreel cameraman and stringer by the name of Bob Kimball, and this is what he said about what happened at Pease Air Force Base. He said, there are constant reports of jet fighters being scrambled after UFOs all the time. They don't regularly base their fighters there. The whole Pease operation is a strategic air command base with just B-52s and B-47s and tankers for refueling. The fighters would have to be brought in from Westover or some other base And if there's any truth to the rumor, then there's all kinds of stories that a couple of UFOs have landed right by the runways of the base, but there's no way of checking these out because nobody with any real authority is going to say anything. So that is written in John Fuller's book, which I find very interesting.
What years was this?
That's September 1965.
1965, okay.
Yep. So not too many people talk about UFOs landing at Pease.
No. I know back around that time when the base was still open and fully functioning, my father was retired from the Army, so we used to go up there to Pease all the time. That's where my parents did their shopping. We go up once a week. We go up once a week to go to the base, commissary and this and that. But anyway, I didn't ever see any UFOs in myself.
Any UFOs.
But I find this kind of interesting. Obviously, our government says no, there is no such thing as UFOs. But it's kind of funny that we've had a number of presidents, like former President Jimmy Carter, for instance.
Yeah, he saw something.
Yes, he did. Jimmy Carter had a dramatic UFO experience when he was running for president. On his way to a 2-day religious conference, Carter saw a UFO, and he and his entourage were so disturbed by the experience that they spent the next 2 days discussing UFOs and extraterrestrials instead of the planned conference agenda. It was the darndest thing I've ever seen, said Carter. It was big, it was very bright, it changed colors, and it was about the size of the moon. We watched for 10 minutes, but none of us could figure out what it was. One thing for sure, I'll never make fun of people who say they've seen unidentified flying objects in the sky. Although he touted himself as a humble peanut farmer, Carter was a sophisticated observer. He was a graduate of nuclear physics and served as an officer in the submarines. And in 1977, after he'd been elected president and tried to open the UFO files, he was told, now this is the President of the United States, he was told by the heads of the intelligence agency that he, as president, did not have high enough security clearance to even see the files. Do you believe that the president doesn't
Something wrong there.
Yeah, I think there is definitely something wrong there.
And that was in 1977, you said?
That was 1977.
You know, there was a UFO flap in 1952 where UFOs were sighted over the White House.
Over the White House,
yet that's kind of been hushed, too.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Carter wasn't aware of that at that time. But he hadn't seen, I mean, that was his first experience right there.
Yeah,
so it makes you wake up.
That was his experience, yeah. And let's see, there was a General George C. Marshall. The United States has recovered UFOs and their occupants. The UFOs were from a different planet, and they were friendly. They have been hovering over defense facilities and airports. The U.S. authorities were convinced they had nothing to fear from them. The U.S. wanted people to concentrate on the real menace, communism, and not be distracted by the visitors from space. I don't know. I mean, what do you make of this government? You probably don't want to get into that.
Well, yeah, there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, they say that in recent times, the UFO flap is cited as having begun in about 1947, but with the Roswell incident.
With Roswell, yeah.
But research indicates that the sightings go back way before that, thousands of years. And even more recently, the Germans were back engineering technology from downed UFOs in the 30s and the 40s. And of course, part of the technology for the Philadelphia experiment came from not only Nikola Tesla, but also from Oscar Schneider. And they were working on, the back engineering of the UFOs. So even back then, before World War II, they knew something.
And we came across a report somewhere from 1909 that the military was chasing some bandits from across, I guess came from across the border in New Mexico, near what is now called Truth or Consequences.
Oh.
And they chased them into a cave, and what did they find?
I don't know.
Flying discs and little gray men. This was 1909.
What did you read that?
on one of the websites that you told me to read. I believe it was Phil Schneider.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it was. Pretty sure it was. See, I was paying attention. You didn't think I was.
That's very interesting.
You didn't think I was paying attention. But, you know? So
Well,
anyways, that was 1909, way before Roswell.
oh yeah. I think it's been happening long before that, though. I think they've been visiting us for a long time. So, why do you think they're here? What do you think their interest is? And if anybody has any ideas, please feel free to call in. The number 603-430-9722. If you've had an experience or if there's something you'd like to add, we've got some ideas on what we think is going on. I think there's more than just one race involved here, and I think the different races can be both benevolent and perhaps, I hate to say malevolent, but maybe they have more egotistical reasons for coming here or selfish reasons for coming here. They could be political.
They could be. They could be a matter of real estate, I guess.
Yeah, could be a matter of real estate because we are a biodiversity when it comes to natural resources. There's all kinds of things here that are desirable that they might want. So I think it's curious how many races are there? What exactly is it do they want? What is their agenda? Or are there several agendas? Are they time travelers? And do you think they can affect our future?
Well, you know, you mentioned time travelers. I was thinking about that earlier, well, this week. And one reason that I've always kind of thought that they probably, even though they are out there, that they are probably not here, is because of the distances. And, you know, well, if we can't get out there, then how could they get here? But when I stop and think about it, I mean, if they're, you know, 100,000 light years farther out into space, doesn't that mean that they're 100,000 light years ahead of us?
Well, yes and no.
And, you know, don't blow my theory now.
Okay, I'm listening.
I was leading up to something here. I mean, if they're, you know, if they're that far ahead of us in time, then they are probably that far ahead of us in technology.
Yeah.
And, you know, they may have figured out this time distance thing, you know, 20,000 years ago. And look at us like, well, what's the matter with you guys? You know, you can't come up with a simple thing like that.
We are slow, we Earthlings.
Yes, we are. But I mean, if you look at, you know, how much our technology has advanced in the last 50 years.
Exponentially.
And then just imagine, well, what if we'd been working on this for 10,000 years? You know, how far ahead we could be. So.
But in measuring, you know, 100,000 light years or whatever, the picture changes if they're using black holes. And if they're able to bend time and space like Einstein seems to think was possible, you know, they could be using the wormholes. So definitely they're ahead of us, but it's certainly possible that they can come here to visit us from within the galaxy and from without, I would think.
Right. So what I was thinking, I mean, I'm not saying that they have come up with so much with time travel to cover that distance, but they figured out how to use wormholes.
I think they have too.
Which we haven't figured out how to do.
Yeah. And you know, one of the curious prospects is they know what's going to happen in our future and that they're trying hard now to find the point in time that to divert a certain point in time to change the course of our future because we're heading down a destructive road. Earth is, well, we're just devastating the Earth is what we're doing. So,
yes, we are.
I think that might be one of their agendas. Another possibility now, after having read some books by Raymond E. Fowler, as well as Bud Hopkins and John E. Mack, there's an indication that the grays in particular, I guess there are 3 species of grays, they refer to them as the tall grays as well as the small ones that are apparently robotic. They're organic robots, and they've got organic microchips that motivate them. And they have genetically modified themselves so that they have bred emotion out of their physicality. And one of the problems with that is they've just interbreeded too much, and number two, they're dying, according to Phil Schneider, and I'll explain who he is, but he indicates that they're dying, and that since they've bred out emotions in their physicality, they can no longer evolve to a higher dimension and become more godlike. Like, supposedly that's what everyone is trying to do in their lifetime or in several lifetimes, is to attain some sort of nirvana and be one with God type thing. So that's another reason. And then there could possibly be a political reason or a reason for resources. We've got a lot of resources here, and the human race would be a great resource for slave labor. That's another thought.
Slave labor. Okay, I don't like that idea.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
It may have occurred, and it could happen again.
So do you have any thoughts on how many actual races there might be? Well,
and I know this sounds kind of out there, but Phil Schneider, who is a geologist, I should say he was purportedly murdered for all he knew, but he was a geologist, and he worked for the government on the deep underground military bases, really all over the United States. And he felt that there were about 22 races involved. 22 different races
have been here?
Yeah, that have intermingled with us, and that we have the DNA of most of those. Not necessarily everyone has the 22, but maybe a mixture. And we're dealing with Greys. He's had personal interaction with Greys and with the reptilian race.
I know he has quite a story, had quite a story with his interactions, didn't he?
Yes, he did, and it's hard to dismiss what he went through. He's lectured. He did lecture quite a bit in 1994, 95. He was he died in 96. It's suspected that it was a murder. Part of his job was going down underground, being lowered actually in a chair. He set up to a mile underground to test the rock to see if it was meltable, to build underground bases and to build tunnels. And he was dropped down into some existing tunnels and a couple of existing bases where there were reptilians. And one instance he had two instances where he was shot at, but one of them shot at his stomach and completely laid him open, and shot at his fingers on his left hand, and he lost 2.5 fingers on his left hand. And from that shot, the abdominal shot, he wound up getting cancer. So he was very serious about what he went through.
And this wasn't shot with any kind of typical weapon that we know of.
It was laser.
Some sort of laser or particle beam.
Particle beam, yeah.
Some strange thing, yeah.
It laid him open. And the military guy that he was working with that helped pull him out, he wound up dying, and he saved Phil's life. So Phil decided to continue to lecture. And this is another not well-known fact. This is according to Phil Schneider, but he decided to defect, leave his job, because he attended 2 NATO conferences at the deep underground military bases, and he found out that they were being run by some of the extraterrestrials and not by our nation. And he decided he didn't want to work for these people, and he left. But all the members of the geological department left with him. There was like an exodus of about 40 people. So it kind of lends a lot of veracity to what he has to say. Yeah. And he lectured for a while and then wound up dying.
And I know he said that there were, 141 underground bases in this country?
I think it was 133 at the time he was talking.
Yeah, this was back in 1995 or something.
4 and 5, yeah. And there's supposed to be like about, 1,300 worldwide.
Actually, I got it here if we want the figures, if I can find them.
Well, there's quite a few, more than typically you would expect.
Yeah, it's not up to date now anyway, so.
Yeah, but anyway, it's over 130.
Yeah, in this country.
Underground bases.
Yeah.
So, moving beyond that, there's an awful lot of people that have done interviews of abductions. We've had Preston Dennett on, for example. He's a wonderful source. He's been an investigator for MoveOn for quite a while.
Yeah. But we're going to have to get him back on.
Oh, definitely. And, of course, Johnny Fuller, he did a great deal of investigation. And there's always Whitley Strieber, and you can't discount what he has to say. He's had a lot of abduction experiences. So, gathering the information from what a lot of these people have said, excuse me, part of this is, part of the reason for being here is genetic manipulation, that the Greys in particular are dying. They need our DNA. Like if you interbreed with your own family, you wind up, you don't have a very good gene pool. You dilutes the gene pool. And that's just what the Greys are up against.
I'm not going to say what I was thinking.
The Greys need to diversify. Yeah. Apparently, there are one species in particular that are really in trouble, and they want to save their race.
Didn't I see on one of these sites lectures that there's only like 1,800 or something of them?
Yeah, that there's left? A small number left, yeah. Which is just kind of unusual.
So, I guess if they want to continue on their race, they're going to have to do something. even if it's not good for us, I guess. Huh?
Yeah. So many of these people have tried to get the word out, and it can be dangerous because there are repercussions. It can be kind of dangerous to do that. There's a gag order, as we know, on the release of the UFO information, and people either get harassed or they mysteriously show up dead. Yeah. So there's also another gentleman. His name is Alex Collier, and he's been very. He's stepped forward and he's spoken. He was a former IRS agent, and he's been a lifetime abductee. And he has a wealth of information. There are several video YouTubes on the internet, and wow, the stuff he has to say is just mind blowing. But he does indicate that we do have DNA from 22 different races. And, of course, there's Billy Meyer, and he's the farmer that's been communicating with the Pleiadians he's from Switzerland, for quite some time now. He's written quite a few books, and he's got a lot of photos. So the Pleiadians have been intervening with us. And some of these entities are very human-like.
Yeah, some of them you can't tell.
You can't tell, yeah.
They just... I have occasionally wondered about you. But,
really? Yeah. Is that part of the mystery?
But I think, yeah, that's why you're mysterious, yeah. Right, I think I know you well enough now that you're not an alien. So. But you don't know that I'm not.
No, I don't, but I wouldn't ask.
Don't ask, don't tell?
You watched the video, I read the book. It's called Stranger at the Pentagon.
Stranger at the Pentagon.
By Frank Stranges. Frank F. Stranges.
Dr. Frank Stranges.
That's right. He has a PhD.
Actually, it's Reverend Dr.
And
Frank
he's
Stranges,
a reverend.
isn't it?
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
He's really a God-loving man. He's very, very kind, very interesting. And he got to meet a man by the name of Valiant Thor, who claims to be a Venusian. And with that, we'll continue.
I was just going to say, yeah. Why don't
for the second half of the hour, because it is now the bottom of the hour.
Right after the bottom of the hour.
So we're going to have to take a little break here, and when we come back, we can continue with Val Thor.
In Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and we will be right back after this short break.
Ground Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. Ground control to Major Tom.
7, 6,
Commencing countdown, engines on.
3, 2,
Check ignition and may God's love be with you. This is ground control to Major Tom. You really made a grade, and the papers want to know whose shirts you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door, and I'm floating in the most peculiar way. And the stars look very different today. For here am I sitting in a tin can, far above the world. Planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do. Knows which way to go. Tell my wife I love her very much. She knows. Ground control to Major Tom. Your circuit's dead. There's something wrong. Can you hear me, Major Tom? 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 Here am I floating around my tin can, far above the moon. Planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do.
Programming on Portsmouth Community Radio is brought to you by our members and by Peter and Kathy Somsich, who support the independent spirit of WSCA and celebrate the importance of community.
Okay, you are listening to WSCA LP 106.1 FM from Portsmouth's West End. And from the community calendar, the Seacoast Repertory Theater. The Seacoast Repertory Theater is dedicated to the presentation of professional theater productions and to the education of the region's young people. Ushers are needed for the main stage and youth productions on evenings and weekends. Volunteers will work with a variety of people, backgrounds, and ages. For further information, call Judy Curry, Marketing Director at 603-433-4793, or email Judy, that's Judi, at seacoastrep.org. And now I believe Lynn has some upcoming guests to tell you about.
Our upcoming guest list starts with July 12th. We will have Karen Mossy and Mike Sullivan from EctoWeb Paranormal, and they'll be joining us via Skype, and they are experts in the field of EVP, or electronic voice phenomena. On July 19th, we're welcoming Paul and Ben Eno. They're a father and son team of paranormal investigators, and they also host Behind the Paranormal radio show. And they also have they're publishers of the New England Ghosts and Good Spirits newsletter. On July 26th, we'll have another open discussion on some other aspect of the paranormal. On August 2nd, we're welcoming back Chuck Credo and Stephen Mathers-Lee, and they'll be joining us in the studio for more discussions on UFOs, aliens among us, and alien hybridization. Perhaps they can add to what we're talking about tonight. August 9th, we will have Audrey Hewins of Starborn Support, and she is a bona fide abductee, and she'll be telling us about her experiences, so we'll have some first-hand information. On August 16th, we're pleased to welcome back our good friend Jeremy D'Entremont, and he's founder of the Friends of Portsmouth Lighthouses, and he will once again be joining us in the studio with some of his wonderful tales of the haunted lighthouses of along the New England coast. And that wraps it up for upcoming lists, upcoming guests, really.
Well, I think that's
tongue-tied.
I think that's a pretty good list of upcoming guests. We do have more. We actually have bookings right into October 4th, which is our 1-year anniversary show.
That'll be our anniversary, yeah.
I want to go ahead and mention that one. On our premiere show we had from the very haunted Shanley Hotel in Napanook, New York. We had Sal Nicosia. He was gracious enough to be our very first guest. So on our 1-year anniversary, he is coming back, and he's going to talk to us once again, and we look forward to that.
That'll be nice.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got some interesting, fascinating life, actually, because he owns that hotel.
He does. He owns and lives in a very, very haunted hotel.
And he's got about 30 rooms, and every single room is supposed to be haunted.
Every room has its own spirit. I've been there many times myself, and Sal is a good friend.
That sounds a little too creepy for me.
Oh, come on. So shall we haven't done a news and views segment in a while now.
Well, before we do news and views, I just wanted to do a shout out to Caroline in Arizona and thank her for the wonderful t-shirts she sent us. She designed and made up some Spirit Radio t-shirts for us, and they're just beautiful, so thank you, Caroline.
Oh, yes, I absolutely agree. Thank you very much, Caroline.
And let me see, moving on to news and views. I've got one short excerpt from Fate magazine, and it looks like we've got a caller, so, well, I'll just go ahead and read about Frank Sinatra and JFK. He had a very interesting experience. On November 21st, 1963, Frank Sinatra was filming a movie, and it was a location shoot in the Los Angeles cemetery. The scene for the funeral of Big Jim, which was played by Edward G. Robinson. And this was an older cemetery with above-ground tombstones. During a break in filming, Sinatra went for a cigarette and sat on one of the tombstones. Now, this was on November 21st, 1963. While the camera was being moved into its new position, Sinatra happened to look down at the name on the tombstone on which he was sitting. The name was John F. Kennedy. This JFK lived from around 1873 to 1940. But given the event of the next day, Sinatra was affected so that it would haunt him for the rest of his life, according to his son. So it's worth paying attention to all those extra features on the DVDs. It was an extra feature on the movie that he was filming. Very, very strange. That would affect me too.
Well, I'm sorry. I was busy answering the phone while you were reading that, so I didn't get it. But
that's okay. You can listen to the playback.
I will. I'll get it on the. I'll get it on Buzzsprout.
We didn't have
iTunes. We are on iTunes. So look us up.
Oh. Did we have a caller or?
Yes, we do have a caller. We have Jim from Hampton on the line.
Oh, great.
Wants to ask a question. But first, I want to read my news and views.
All right.
And
we should make the guest wait.
Well, he's my brother, so he can wait. This one goes along with the space
alien theory. Theme.
Well, scientists have located 16 light years away Gliese 832c has been identified as one of the best places to look for life. Discovered by Robert A. Wittenbeier from the University of New South Wales, the new planet is thought to have a mass 5 times that of the Earth and orbits its parent red dwarf star once every 36 days. Despite these differences, however, Gliese 832c is a prime candidate in the hunt for habitable Earth-like worlds. Located within its star's habitable zone, the planet is believed to be one of the top most likely places to find life outside of our solar system. The planet might have Earth-like temperatures, albeit with large seasonal shifts, given a similar terrestrial atmosphere, astronomers wrote. This makes Gliese 832c one of the top 3 most Earth-like planets according to the ESI, with respect to Earth's stellar flux and mass, whatever that means, and to the closest one of Earth of all 3, a prime object for follow-up observations. Okay, shall we go to the phone? Enough of me. Nobody wants to listen to me anymore.
I wanted to listen.
Oh, you did?
How many light years away was it? 16?
17.
Okay.
No, you're right, 16.
Okay. Why don't you see if Jim's still there?
Why don't we do that? We have on the line now, hopefully, Jim from Hampton. Are you there? Hello.
I am. Can you hear me?
Hi, Jim.
I can hear you, yep.
Yeah, good evening, Willy and Lynn.
Do you have a question for us, or do you have a UFO experience? Okay.
I have a question. If technology is always such a good thing, why is it that the world seems to be breaking down everywhere?
Because we're losing our humanity.
Technology itself seems to be making the world a worse place.
Well, it's not the technology. I think we're losing sight of our God source.
I think that would depend on who you ask, if technology is making the world worse or better.
Yeah, but it's putting people out of work.
And
I think NAFTA is putting people out of work.
Yeah, and technology is putting other people to work. So...
a smaller few.
If you look at all the civilized countries of the world, they're all basically going through the same thing that we're going through right now, trying to fight off the whole third world trying to get in, And unemployment and the disparity between the rich and poor this is a worldwide trend. It's not just the U.S. So.
Oh, it is a worldwide trend. Yeah, no getting around that.
So what happened? The simple rotary phones with dials on them, and we did not have any of this computer or space technology. People had a chance to actually accomplish something, and now it seems like they're stymied in anything they do. So why is technology a good thing?
I don't know. Did we say it was a good thing?
I think it's a good thing.
It certainly can be.
What would I do without my iPhone?
But, cars are a little bit better than just riding horses all the time. But I think that we can't lose sight of our humanity. I think that's what's happening. And I don't think that we ever should have exported so many manufacturing jobs elsewhere. We should have kept them here in the country. And we'd have a lot more people employed.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But while we have you...
This isn't exactly within the parameters of the show, except that we're talking about retro...
back engineering?
Technology from crashed spacecraft.
Well, I have read...
Have they done us any favor?
Yes, Jim, I think they have. In reading this, the United States government is doing its utmost to develop this Star War technology and this particle beam weaponry. And, there are some hostile forces out there. It's just that there's some hostile forces here, too. But there's no doubt about it that this weaponry is helping protect our planet and keeping some of the riffraff away.
So while we got you right there, Jim, I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your opinion on UFOs?
I don't like being put on the spot.
I know you don't.
I'd rather put you on the spot. You're the talk show host.
Give us your opinion, Jim.
What do you think? Do they exist? Are the aliens here? Have you ever seen anything?
You asking me?
I'm asking you, yes.
In my own personal experience, I've never seen anything that would lead me to believe that
they're there. Okay.
Extraterrestrials are UFOs.
Do you think they are?
Do I think they are?
Yep, that's what I said.
Personally, no.
Okay.
Okay, and why not?
Well, sometimes whether a thing is possible or not, it comes down to more whether or not it's plausible. And it comes down to a question of why. Why would they be here? And why would we hide them? And you said there are 140 underground bases. Can you pinpoint one?
Dulce, New Mexico.
I mean, you can't hide them.
Area 51.
Area 51.
Yeah, but
those are two.
Everybody knows that's there.
Well,
it's hard to hide a military installation because people in surrounding towns work in them, and everybody always finds out that they're there.
Well, we're not talking about hiding the military installations, but there's a UFO conspiracy going on where they're kind of not releasing information about UFOs.
Okay, well, if they exist, then I don't know. It would be something outside my experience. I've never seen anything to make me believe they exist.
Well, I would have to go along with that. I have never seen anything either. Let me ask you. Let me put it this way: if you saw a UFO and you were convinced, would that be a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. That's really hard to answer. If I were to have an experience like, say, the Travis Walton or something, I don't know. That would be it would definitely be a mind-expanding experience.
Definitely would. Yep.
All right, then. Well, everybody has their opinion, and you certainly, it's good to hear yours, and you may change it after you do a little more reading. You never know.
And after
you see something.
After UFO lands in the backyard, you may just change your opinion.
Well,
but in the meantime, we're going to have to let you go.
Okay.
But we thank you for calling.
Okay, and congratulations on that upcoming 100th episode.
Not 100.
How about 52?
1 year. 1 year. 52.
1 year. 1 year. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. Thank you for calling, Jim.
Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So, quickly, if anybody else wants to call, we don't have too much time left, but it is 603-430-9722.
So, Valiant Thor, we didn't finish talking about Val. He is supposedly a Venusian. And Frank Stranges got to meet him and interact with him. And apparently Valiant Thor has been here for quite a while. They lived for several hundred years. Oddly enough, he looks very human. Two of the differences between himself and we were called Terrans, those of Earth. Terrans. Okay. He has no fingerprints, and they say he has 6 fingers. That I haven't seen.
No, I was looking at the video today. He showed his hand, and I couldn't.
He doesn't use his hand. But he's been coming here for a while, and he's here by agreement. He has agreed to take on this project and try to help us. But he's saying that those from Venus are are very Christ conscious, that there isn't so much religion, but there's a belief in the Christ consciousness. So his book is just very interesting. It's very eye-opening.
And this Valiant Thor, right?
Valiant Thor, and they call him Val.
Yeah, and he actually lived in the Pentagon, was it?
He did for a couple of years.
For 3 years, I believe.
2 years.
2 years?
Yep, and he was there to try and help us, although our government didn't feel that what he had to offer was what we were looking for, but nonetheless, he still stuck around and tried to help us. And we do have another caller. Something else I wanted to mention, too, is Alex Collier and his opinion on the moon. And if you recall, there was a real controversy, and I think there still is, that we never went to the moon. And Alex Collier, who is an abductee, and he's a former IRS agent, he says that, yes, we did go to the moon, but that the moon is artificial. It's not only artificial, it was brought here about 11,000 years ago to assist Earth with maintaining the weather, and also so that the Earth wouldn't warble. And I know that sounds really strange. He also said that the moon is inhabited. It has U.S. and Russian bases, as well as extraterrestrial bases there on the dark side of the moon. And he also indicates that the moon does not rotate on its axis, although it does circle the Earth. So that's pretty heavy stuff.
That is very heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Actually. And it's, I don't know, it's kind of hard to
defend it and hard to dispute it.
Yeah. So I don't quite know what to say about that. Yeah.
But in getting back to the thread of thinking of us having been on the moon, I remember seeing those pictures and thinking that they looked awfully fake. It seemed like there was no background. It was mostly just foreground, and it didn't look like the landscape stretched, or there weren't mountains in the background. It just seemed flat, and the lighting seemed artificial. And the response to Alex Collier had to people talking about that and asking him whether or not we'd been there, he said that yes, we had been there, and that photographs were taken. However, there were so many structures, so many alien structures, that they couldn't airbrush them all out, so they had to set up, some artificial shots in a studio. And I know that sounds far-fetched, but to me, it's beginning to make sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only thing I can really say about that is, as far as it looking so strange, I mean, it's on the moon, so it's it's not gonna look like it would here.
Some of the shots just looked, the way they were lit, it looked like it was an artificial studio, and there was no background, and they looked peculiar to me.
Yeah, well, definitely look peculiar. We only have about a minute left. Well, I know you wanted to you wanted to read there. In
wrapping this up, there was one other gentleman. His name is Stan Romanek. He's had quite a few experiences as of late, and there's some faction out there that doesn't really want him talking about the UFOs, but he's been discredited. People are trying to discredit him. But he did channel one particular gray as he was being regressed. He channeled a gray entity. And those that were in the studio or in the office with him while he was being regressed, they were able to ask this entity different questions. And one of the questions was if there was a God. And this was the response. When asked whether his highly developed and extremely advanced race believes in a God, his response was an emphatic yes. He said that God is beyond human understanding, and the Greys consider themselves human. In fact, they are still trying to understand the concept of the divine themselves, which I find very reassuring. And he also indicated that the first step to accept without fear that humans are not alone in this universe is very important, that despite what the manipulators want us to believe, mankind has friends out there that are waiting for us to learn to accept them. Unfortunately, those that are trying to assist have laws that they cannot get directly involved. They can only guide us. We must strive to accomplish it ourselves as a rite of passage for the human race. So I thought that was very profound and also very enlightening, the fact that it's not a godless world.
So there you go. The question is, do you believe? Do you not believe? Everybody has their own opinion.
That's right.
And I just wanted to mention one other little tidbit of information.
And what would that be, Willie?
About 2 months ago, Lynn and I had the pleasure of actually meeting a retired CIA operative, who obviously we're not going to mention by name. And we had a pretty good conversation with him. And one of the questions we asked him outright, are there aliens in Washington? Are there aliens working in our government? And his answer was yes. So, on that note, you have been listening to Spirit Radio, the paranormal experience. And do you think they'll invite us again next week now?
I hope we'll be here.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
So
Good night.
That is Spirit Radio for this week on WSCA LP 106.1 FM.